She had no idea the elevator would become the courtroom where her entire marriage went on trial, and that her 4-year-old son would be the judge. The Jinhua Tower lobby smelled like money. Cold marble, imported leather, and the kind of silence that only exists when everyone around you is pretending. Kong Min stepped out of his black Bentley at 7:43 a.m., buttoning his jacket with the practiced calm of a man who had never once been caught. And he never had been. 12 years running Seoul's most feared underground empire, and not a single thread had ever unraveled in his hands. He was beautiful in the way danger always is. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that calculated everything in a room before his foot crossed the threshold. Women noticed him. Men stepped aside. Nobody asked questions. Beside him walked Yuri. Silk blouse, designer heels, her hand grazing his arm just enough to signal ownership without demanding it. She laughed at something he said, her voice light, practiced, careful. She knew her role. She never overstepped it. They entered the elevator together. 3 blocks away, Ella adjusted her son Jaden's backpack straps and exhaled slowly. "Mommy, are we going to see Daddy?" Jaden asked, his 4-year-old voice cutting clean through her chest. "Yes, baby." She smoothed his collar. "We're surprising him." She hadn't told Kang Min they were coming. She wanted it to feel like before. Spontaneous, warm, like the early days when he used to pull her close in the kitchen and say she was the only thing in his life that made sense. She missed that man. She just didn't know yet that man had never fully existed. They stepped into Jinhua Tower. Jaden reached for her hand. The elevator doors were just beginning to close. Have you ever had a feeling right before a moment that your life was about to split in two? Drop a comment below. The elevator was halfway to the 30th floor when it happened. A soft chime. A pause. The doors slid open on the 12th floor. And time stopped. Ella stepped in first, Jaden's small hand wrapped in hers, his backpack bouncing as he looked up at the tall mirrored ceiling with wide, delighted eyes. Then he saw his father. "Daddy!" The word exploded out of him, pure, innocent, devastating. Kang Min's blood turned to ice. He turned slowly the way a man turns when he already knows the wound is fatal. And there she was, Ella, his wife. Beautiful, unsuspecting, holding their son's hand like she was delivering the universe directly to his feet. He and her eyes moved from Kang Min's face, to Yuri's hand, to the space between them. That space that told the entire story without a single word. Nobody moved. Jaden, unbothered by the silence adults build around their sins, ran forward and grabbed his father's leg. "Daddy, we surprised you. Mommy said..." "Jaden!" Ella's voice came out barely above a whisper. Controlled, deadly calm. "Come back to Mommy." Kang Min looked at her. She was not crying. That was the most terrifying thing about her in that moment. She was not crying. Her eyes were doing something worse. They were understanding. Yuri stepped back slightly, her manicured fingers releasing Kang Min's arm. Even she had the decency to recognize what she had just walked into. The elevator doors closed behind them all with a quiet, indifferent click. And 4 people stood inside a metal box. 1 marriage, 1 affair, 1 child, and 1 truth that could no longer be outrun. If you were Ella in that elevator, what would your first words be? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story that hits this deep. Kang Min spoke first. That was his first mistake. "Ella, don't." 1 word. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Ella had grown up watching her mother absorb blow after blow with silence, and she had promised herself she would never be that woman. But she also knew, not here, not in front of Jaden, not like this. She crouched down to her son's level, her voice warm and steady, a masterclass in holding yourself together. "Baby, can you count all the buttons on the elevator for Mommy?" Jaden, thrilled by the task, she turned immediately to the panel. 1, 2, 3. Ella straightened. Her eyes found Yuri, and she studied her the way a surgeon studies a wound. No rage, just assessment. "Who is she?" Ella asked, looking directly at Kang Min. "She works for me." In what department? Her voice was silk over steel. Kang Min said nothing. Yuri, to her own surprise, felt shame crawl up her throat. She had told herself for 8 months that his wife was cold, distant, probably unbothered. She had not expected this, a woman so composed that her silence felt like a sentence being handed down. Look at me, Ella said quietly to Kang Min. He did. I trusted you. She said it like a fact, not an accusation. Like she was simply updating a record. The elevator hummed around them. Jaden counted cheerfully in the background. 14, 15, 16. Kang Min's jaw was stone, but something behind his eyes cracked. Not guilt exactly, something older. Something that had been cracking for a long time and had only just now reached the surface. The elevator shuddered, then stopped. The lights flickered once, twice, and dropped to emergency red, casting everyone in a dim, blood-like glow. Jaden stopped counting and turned around, suddenly uncertain. Mommy? It's okay, Bug. Ella pulled him to her side immediately, her hand firm on his back. Just a little pause. The intercom crackled but delivered nothing useful. Static, then silence. Kang Min pulled out his phone, no signal. He pressed the emergency button. A distant alarm sounded somewhere below them, but no voice responded. They were stuck. Yuri pressed herself against the far wall, arms folded, trying to take up as little space as possible. She understood now that whatever protection Kang Min had offered her had an expiry date, and it had passed approximately 4 minutes ago. How long could it take? Ella asked no one in particular. Could be minutes, could be an hour, Kang Min said. She nodded slowly. Of course. Jaden tugged Kang Min's jacket. Daddy, why is the light red? Kang Min looked down at his son, this boy with Ella's nose and his own stubborn eyes, and something in his chest caved inward. He crouched down. It means the elevator is resting, he said quietly. Like sleeping? Like sleeping. Jaden seemed satisfied. He leaned against his father's knee with complete trust, and Kang Min closed his eyes briefly against the weight of it. Ella watched this, every second of it. When Kang Min stood, she was still watching. We are going to be adults about this, she said, barely loud enough for Yuri to miss. For him. But when those doors open, Kang Min, she paused. We are done pretending. Jaden had fallen asleep against Ella's shoulder. The boneless, trusting sleep of a child who believes the adults around him have everything under control. The elevator hummed quietly. 20 minutes had passed. Yuri spoke first, which surprised everyone, including herself. I didn't know about him, she said, her voice stripped of its earlier polish. He told me you were separated. Ella looked at her slowly. We have a joint account, a son, and a vacation booked for March. Yuri closed her eyes. I see. Do you? The question wasn't cruel, it was almost sad. Kang Min sat on the floor now, back against the wall, elbows on his knees. A position Ella had never seen him in, because Kang Min never sat on floors. He controlled rooms. He didn't surrender to them. How long? Ella asked him. A pause. 8 months. She absorbed this. Were there others before her? Another pause. Yes. She had expected it. Had felt it in the distance he'd been keeping, in the late nights, in the way he sometimes looked at her like he was memorizing her rather than loving her. But hearing it confirmed was still like swallowing glass. Why did you marry me? She asked. Kang Min looked up at her then, and what crossed his face was not the cold calculation she had braced for. It was grief. Because you were the only thing I ever wanted that I didn't know how to keep. The words fell into the silence and stayed there. Even Yuri looked away. This is the moment that breaks everything. What do you think Ella should do next? Comment your thoughts and subscribe for the rest of the story. Jaden stirred, murmured something, then settled again. The tension in the elevator had shifted. Not dissolved, but changed shape. Less like a confrontation, more like a wound finally exposed to air. Yuri quietly said she needed to step as far as she could, which in a stalled elevator meant 3 feet to the left. It was a small mercy, but she offered it. Kang Min moved closer to Ella, not touching, just closer. You used to say I was the only person who never needed anything from you, Ella said softly, looking straight ahead. You were. That's not a compliment, Kang Min. That's loneliness. He turned to look at her fully. She was still not crying. Yeah, but her jaw was working hard to hold something in, and he knew her well enough to know what. I built walls to protect you, he said. From what I am, what I do. And the women. He had no answer that was worthy of her. They were escapes, he finally said, from a version of myself I hated. So you punished me for loving you. It wasn't a question. The words landed. He didn't flinch away from them this time. Yes, he said. I did. Ella looked down at Jaden's sleeping face, touched his cheek once, softly. He has your jaw, she said quietly. I used to think that was beautiful. Used to? She didn't answer, but she didn't move away either. And in that small, suspended metal box with red emergency light washing over them both, something fragile and necessary passed between them. Not forgiveness? Not yet. But honesty. Real, ugly, unnecessary honesty. For the first time in their marriage. The lights came back, full brightness. The elevator groaned and shuddered back to life. And with the light came reality, rushing in like cold water. Yuri straightened, fixed her blouse. The version of herself that had briefly felt shame quietly retreated. Kang Min, she said, her voice steady again. Your 9 a.m. board meeting. It was such a small thing to say, but Ella heard what lived inside it. The intimacy of a woman who knew his schedule, who had built her own routine around his. Something in Ella's face closed. She knows your schedule? Ella said flatly. Kang Min shot Yuri a look. She dropped her gaze. Ella, no, I'm done. And now, finally, her voice cracked. Just once, just barely. I moved to a country where I knew no one. I learned pieces of a language so your mother would accept me. I raised our son mostly alone because you were always working. The word came out like a verdict. And you gave her my time, my hours. The hours I was home waiting. Jaden woke at the sound of his mother's voice changing. Mommy? It's fine, baby. But her eyes were bright now, finally, and she turned fully away from Kang Min. You want to talk about walls? She said, her back to him, her voice dropping low and fierce. You built them around yourself and left me standing outside in the cold for 4 years, and I kept knocking, Kang Min. I kept knocking. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Ella took Jaden's hand, lifted her chin, and walked out without looking back. The board meeting lasted 40 minutes. Kang Min remembered none of it. When he sat at the head of the table, the position he had spent 15 years engineering his life to occupy, and felt nothing but the echo of Ella's voice. I kept knocking. After the meeting, he dismissed everyone with a single gesture and sat alone in the glass-walled room, the city of souls sprawling indifferent below him. Yuri had texted twice. He hadn't opened either message. He pulled up Ella's contact instead and stared at it for a long time. Then he called his mother, a woman who had opposed the marriage, who had said Ella would never understand their world. His mother who had been wrong about everything that mattered. She's leaving me, he said when she picked up. A pause. Then stop her. She should leave me. Kang Min. His mother's voice was rare in its softness. You are many things, but you are not a man who lets the right thing walk away and lives comfortably with it. He hung up, sat with the silence. Jaden's face came back to him, sleeping on Ella's shoulder in that red-lit elevator, trusting, peaceful, because his mother was there. Kang Min had spent his life being feared. He had never once tried to be worthy. He stood, grabbed his jacket. His assistant appeared at the door. Sir, your 2 p.m. Cancel everything. He took the stairs, past the elevator, past the floor where everything had broken open this morning. Outside, Soul moved fast and loud around him. He drove to his own home like a man driving toward a reckoning he finally chose not to outrun. The apartment was quiet when he arrived. Ella's suitcase was by the door, half packed. Not fully, and which meant she was still deciding. Or still hurting too much to move efficiently. He found her in Jaden's room folding small shirts with the mechanical focus of a woman holding herself together through motion. She heard him come in, didn't turn around. "I told you." "I know," he said. "I'm not here to argue." She turned then, a small shirt in her hands, eyes red but dry. "Then why are you here?" He crossed the room slowly and stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to look up at him. "Because you kept knocking," he said, "and I want to be the man who finally opens the door." Her breath caught. "That's a beautiful sentence, Kangmin. You've always been good with beautiful sentences." "I know, and I've been terrible with everything that follows them." He reached out, slowly giving her every chance to step back, and took the small shirt from her hands. Set it down, held her hands in both of his. "I ended it. Yuri, today. It's done." She searched his face. "I'm not asking you to forgive me tonight," he continued, his voice low, stripped of every layer of armor he had ever worn. "I'm asking you to let me start. Actually start therapy, honesty, whatever it takes. And your world, your empire? It means nothing if you and Jaden aren't in mine." From down the hall, small feet padded toward them. "Daddy's home." Jaden appeared in the doorway, arms wide, entirely uncomplicated in his joy. Kangmin looked at Ella one more moment, a question in his eyes. She exhaled, slow, long. "Don't you dare waste this," she whispered. "Never again." She stepped aside. Jaden launched himself at his father, and Kangmin caught him and held him like a man holding the thing he almost destroyed. Over their son's shoulder, his eyes found Ella's. And she, slowly, carefully, with every scar still present, let herself begin to hope. They say real love isn't found in the perfect moments. It's rebuilt in the broken ones. Do you believe people can truly change? Drop your thoughts below, and if this story moved you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to hear it today.